obviously we believe that Stingley is going to be an elite cornerback once he gets to his chosen team. I think that there has been so much chatter and so much negativity around Stingley, and some of that produced by himself, some of that he has to blame himself for, some of this stuff popping up. But I have always been steadfast in thinking that as soon as they lace him up and they get into a testing format and he is 100% healthy, that the comparison between him and anybody at that position is really going to be a race for second place for the opposition, just because his technical ability to play that spot is so refined and so over-the-top good that you'll not be able to discount that, especially from that. This is my opinion. But from a coaching standpoint and at the NFL level, they're so meticulous about fundamentals and technique that when you see how advanced his technical skill is at playing that position. I mean, think about the times that he would, and a lot of this is going back to his freshman season, because that was, when we saw him play the most football and the most consistent football, and that's really who he is. That's the player that he is. And just think of the technical aspect of his game that we saw so many times, whether it was just gliding or riding wide receivers out of bounds on deep routes because he knew how to kind of push them with his body without touching them. The plays that he made on the ball a couple of times his freshman season, the play he made against George Pickens and Georgia in the SEC championship game, the play he made against Auburn after he had fumbled the punt where he had, did kind of like a 180 with his body while the ball was in the air and he loses sight of the ball. He's able to retract the ball and catch it and toe tap 2 toes to stay in bounds. And, in an SEC football game that was, really competitive. That Auburn LSU game was that was a heavyweight fight in 2019. That's about as tough a shot as Burrow took all season on the sideline in that Auburn game. That was a big game. And Stingley out there making plays. Florida and Van Jefferson ate his lunch in the first half. He stayed in the game and was able to compete into the second half and ultimately was able to make a key play in that game with an interception to give the ball back to Burrow, and that's when he hits Chase for the game-winning touchdown. He was making plays consistently all through the things like that you can go and watch, but even the stuff that you turn on the film and the ball's nowhere near him, and the technique that he plays the cornerback position with is so advanced and so well refined at this point in his career that if you can get that skill level with that technical application, and he's only 21. Now, through the interview process, I think you find out whether he loves football or not. Right? And I think, that's a lot of concern for people who are chosen within the top 10 of the NFL draft just because it's generational money. Your life's about to change. You're about to be guaranteed $25 million. So before we give you this check and invest this type of capital into you, do you love your profession? Once this money hits your account, will you be more worried about getting to Vegas or getting to South Beach or getting into the gym and coming to the facility on time? And it's fair. There were concerns like that around Leonard Fournette when he was coming out. Fournette turned those to be true his first part of his career, where people were wondering, does this guy really love it? And once he had that humility where, he was traded, signed a 1-year deal, he look around, Alvin Kamara's getting paid, Christian McCaffrey's getting paid. That's his draft class. Where's his money? Leonard, it's an accountability job, man. If you were there, you were doing the time and you were making the plays, you'll get your money. And he wisened up, learned, and kind of fell back in love with the game. And here he is signing a 3-year deal, $21 million, all of it guaranteed, I believe I saw. After he made his rookie deal where he got, $25 million as the 4th pick in the draft. So, I mean, that's walk away playing football making nearly $50 million. That's a hell of an investment for somebody that you really question within the middle of his career. Does he even like football? Does he love football anymore?
Or is he just good at it?
Yeah, or is he just dominant at it? And I think that there's a lot of those types of players in the league.
Absolutely.
Where you just have to get up and go to Sunday because I'm just so good at this, but I don't really like it. I don't really. I mean, how many times can you be celebrated and cheered for? I mean, once you go through that high and you experience it, it's a tough one to chase. It's a tough one to recapture every week. And I think those questions around Stingley are fair. I do.
I don't think he's a partier, though.
No, he's not a partier.
Like Vegas probably doesn't interest
I wouldn't
him.
I wouldn't be worried about giving him the money.
Me either.
But I would be worried about giving him the money and wondering, do you like what you do?
Right.
I mean.
And I think his athleticism and the way that he plays the game is almost to a detriment because he makes it look so easy it looks like, I don't even know if he cares. But it comes so easy, and he's been working at it his entire life. That's why he's as good as he is, because his dad was in professional football. His dad coached him since he was
grandfather
was a dominant professional player until he got injured. And that's some of the, like, when people say like helicopter dad, that has to be in the back of his dad's head. He wants to protect his son because he saw it happen to his dad.
Sure, absolutely.
So that's his kid.
No doubt about it.
And so he wants to protect him. But the way that Stingley plays and the ease at probably the second hardest position in football, I mean, it's almost, like I said, to a detriment that he's that good at it. And so it makes people kind of wonder, is he in love with it? It's like, obviously, you wouldn't work that hard at it if you didn't want to be good at it. Like, and didn't want to play it. Right. Like, that's the reason he's good.
Stingley is really technical, but he's also extremely rigid and lacks break on the ball instincts of a guy like Greedy. Look, there is concern on his ability, because if you think about it, he didn't intercept a lot of passes where the best play on the ball I can remember him play was the Georgia game against George Pickens, where he just read that. In fact, his first interception may be more impressive than the one in the second half where he almost housed, where he catches with one arm because he's riding the guy out of bounds, and just technically it's
perfect.
Flawless. It is the piece of film that you watch cornerback and you say, you cannot play the position any better. In fact, those guys like Duvernay, that he was covering his second collegiate game at Texas, that's where people were like, holy shit, he's for real. That play on the side, he intercepted that ball, first and foremost. But, the plays that he was making that night against pro wide receivers, those guys are playing in the league, was really kind of his, okay, he's legit. He's as good as advertised. So I think and it's not hard to find what type of player he is. It's easy to question the last 2 years, but I think if you dig in and really realize how screwed up LSU football was, and I think even people now could tell you, and like Brian Polian said here last Friday, nobody walks around that building saying that they got to clean up a mess or what was happening. Nobody's doing that. But there is somebody at some level saying that place was a mess.
Yeah, it was Scott Woodward. I got to change this now. Walked into it. I thought this was a coach's office. This is a fraternity house.
And your best player is going to be affected by that. The best player on your roster that's concerned about his draft future, concerned about what that is going to look like, playing in that type of program that just is a circus, is going to be affected. Good, bad, or indifferent. And Stingley's last 2 years, you'd probably like a redo. But you've got 2019. You've got a little shades of what it was the last 2 years. And now you're getting back right, healthy, and motivated. To me, it's not even a comparison on who the best cornerback is in the draft. You want to dive in and do the interviews and do all the stuff and learn all the mental stuff and all, fine. But physically, it's not close. And when it comes to technical stuff, he's better than some of the 5-6 year veterans in the league.